Welcome to GlobeDancer in the studio. We are in the studio today with Josh Beamish. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So Josh is an accomplished choreographer, dancer, and teacher. He is a founding director of Move the Company, which celebrates its 10th anniversary this year. And I'm also really excited because after our chat, Josh, you are going to be teaching me an excerpt from your solo piece called Adoration. All right, but first let's get to know you. You grew up in Kelowna.
I did,
You
yes.
moved to Vancouver to further your studies and for more opportunities to perform.
Yep.
In 2005, at the age of 18, you formed Move the Company.
I did.
And in 2012, you moved to New York City.
Yes.
Why did you move to New York City?
Well, and the initial reason I moved to New York City, I was looking for other opportunities because I was frustrated by the lack of funding I was receiving for my work here. And while in New York on another project, Wendy Whelan, a principal dancer at New York City Ballet, approached me with a project called Restless Creature that she wanted me to both choreograph and perform in. And it was kind of an offer I couldn't refuse.
It's an excellent opportunity.
Yeah.
Of course, Ms. Whelan, she was a celebrated principal dancer of New York City Ballet.
Yes.
Compare New York City with Vancouver in terms of dance. What differences did you notice?
It's a world of differences. The thing with Vancouver is we have so few dance institutions. It's a lot of project-based companies, and it's definitely more of it's a small community. And so it's kind of a lot of dancers go back and forth between the same choreographers' projects. A lot of people were trained by the people who then go on to hire them. And most people's projects rely upon grant funding. There's not a lot of development and fundraising outside of that. It still exists, but so much of the work is as a result of government funding. And in New York, it's almost the complete opposite. It's like so many companies rely entirely on donors and patrons. And so I feel like in New York, a lot of your work is going to parties and events and creating relationships with people who want to support you. And in Vancouver, it's in BC, it's a lot of grant writing. So it's a lot of time with your computer. So it's interesting because I feel like in one sense, it's amazing that we have government support, more government support here, even if it's limited, than they do in New York. That's an incredible gift. But there's also something really beautiful about work existing because a person who you spoke to believes in your vision.
There's a direct demand.
And and they actually want to give of themselves to support your creations. So I mean, all of that filters down into the structures of the dance communities. So you'll see a lot of modern dancers in New York not getting paid for rehearsals, from choreographers who are far more established than you would believe that gets by. Whereas here, if you aren't paying your dancers, people will find out and you won't get your grants.
So there's a structure.
Yeah. So I mean, there's positives and negatives.
Few artists do what you do at once. You are a dancer, choreographer, teacher, company director. What drives you to do all of this?
Initially, my focus was primarily choreography, but the other elements kind of came out of necessity. So sometimes I had to perform more than I'd like to because we didn't have enough funding to hire another male dancer, or I had to teach again to raise funds, or but in kind of being forced into doing these other things more, I found a passion for them that isn't quite at the level of choreography, but near the level of choreography for me.
What perspective does that give you about the current state of dance?
For me, one of the things is I'm working with all of these amazing young artists. I do a lot of solos for Youth America Grand Prix for students and the various dance competitions and festivals in BC. And I'm really passionate about that because I love training the next generation of youth and working with children. And
it's inspiring with your experience, right?
Yeah, and they're just so phenomenal. What I'm able to get out of them because they have no preconceived notion of what they are already. But it's kind of disheartening because I see all this talent, all these amazing artists. It's like I'm training all of these people who will be the most qualified artists to dance my work in 5 years, but I don't have the consistent enough funding to give them jobs.
How many pieces do you choreograph a year?
It really depends, but a lot. I mean, if you get down to the competition solos that I do, ranging up to studio school pieces, performances to the professional works, upwards of 20. 25, 50, it depends. Scaling from full-length works to 3 minutes.
Sure. And so, at this moment, do you think you are at your best?
I think I have the clearest perspective on what my artistic vision is, and what my strengths are, and the best understanding of how to utilize my limited resources. So yeah, I mean, physically, I feel like I was probably at my best as a dancer in around 2012, but there's a difference between 26 and 28, you know, it's like my body is getting older.
What would allow you to do better?
More money. Always, but
it's the call of artists, right?
I've never had operating funding in 10 years. It's a constant struggle to have anything consistent to just focus on my work. So the fact that I am where I am, or that I'm as comfortable as where I am as an artist when I've never been able to solely focus on my work the way that lots of other choreographers have, I'm actually quite proud of, because it's like, but I can only imagine where I would be if I was given the resources and opportunity to solely focus on developing my work.
If you had all the money in the world, what's the next thing that would be lacking, that you would think needs to be improved?
I don't know. I can't really see beyond that, because
it is such a big barrier.
It is I think it's the only barrier. Yeah, for me.
In your choreography, you're known for your duets. So
Yes.
works comprised of two dancers. What attracts you to create duets?
I guess I'm a romantic, and even though my work is really architectural and structural and isolated, intricate, complex, I love the beauty of my unique relationships with every person I have in my life. And there's nothing more intimate than the friendships or romantic relationships or family relationships between you and one other person, that there's no duplicate to that dynamic. And so there can be like incredible strength in numbers, but that can't compare to me for the intimacy of something between two people. Some pieces of mine are definitively autobiographical.
Which ones? We'll have to find out when we...
A lot of them, yeah.
In Restless Creature, you performed a duet called Conditional Sentences with
Yes.
Wendy Whelan. Wendy Whelan, of course, New York City Ballet dancer who retired recently. She's exactly 20 years older than you. To the day, actually. You share the same birthday.
Yeah.
What were the themes of that piece?
Well, Wendy and I have this really special relationship where we're connected by time and dates and the same star sign, and I really wanted to reflect this like crazy, wild cosmic connection that we have, because it has created this beautiful friendship that we share, because we're so alike. We have this very, very similar sense of humor, and so we were good friends right away. And I never felt this like divide between the prima star and the unknown young Canadian choreographer. She always valued and respected me. So that dynamic and the way that we are with each other, the lightness,
Right.
the deep love and compassion that we have for each other, and the care, but also the sense of duality and the fact that we are in such different places in our lives.
I saw an interview of Wendy Whelan, and she said, nobody moves the way that Josh moves. So when you were collaborating, was it difficult to find that commonality in your language, even though you did have that shared sort of feeling between each other?
Definitely. Well, in advance of the project, I was like, if I'm going to be on stage with a New York City Ballet principal, I'm going to go to ballet every day.
Yeah.
Even if we're not doing ballet, even if we're not doing Balanchine, which we're doing my work. But I wanted to approach my work with the optimal level of technical efficiency and proficiency.
And it helps you understand the way that she moves as
Exactly.
well.
So I went to the same coach that she's had for like 20 years and took a class with him, and I still train with him. And he's totally changed my work and my perception of dance technique. Willie Berman is his name.
Sure.
And so I did that on my own accord. And then at the beginning, like, it would maybe take us an hour to perfect an 8 count. But my goal was I wanted to give Wendy the experience that she wanted from the project, and I wanted her to dance my work at the best of her ability.
That's what she was looking for in
Yeah.
Restless Creature,
And
to
I was-
explore movement.
Yeah, and I was willing to invest as much time and energy as possible to get there. And it amazed me the progression she made to, especially when she started working with some of the other choreographers, and she has worked with Shenway, and she was doing stuff with Stephen Petronio, and just the more places she put her brain in, or at other places that she put her brain,
Yeah.
the better she got at my work.
So it was the range.
Yeah, and so yeah, she amazed me.
Sounds like something every dancer should be doing, right? Is exploring different styles.
Totally. Exploring different schools of thought and different approaches to movement, and yeah.
In the end, how long did it take to get an 8 count? At first it took an hour, in the end, how far did you progress?
I mean, now I can give her a note and she fixes it right away. It's like we understand how to speak with each other. I mean, we still do my work very differently, but I love the way that other dancers do my work. I mean, it's one thing to have clones of you, and I think audiences really look for that and like that. They like seeing that transfer, but I like seeing my movement become something else on other people.
This year, you premiered a piece called Burrow at the Place in London.
Yes.
And it was performed by 2 dancers of the Royal Ballet, Nicole Edmonds and Matthew Ball. And it's a unique duet of 2 men.
Yep.
And we've got 2 men on stage who aren't in a sword fight. They are, in their characters, very candidly expressing to us their intimate relationship.
Yep.
What did you want to say about that piece?
Well, I guess, on one hand, my first significant thing that I did with Royal Ballet, it's kind of bold to have made a romantic piece for 2 men. But I didn't even think of it that way, because that's the way that I see the world. And I wanted to create an intimate duet for 2 men, something that didn't sensationalize homosexual relationships. And
it was a very honest piece.
Thank you.
Very real.
And I feel like prior to that, I was always depicting the way that I felt in my relationships with men through women. And there's also something really beautiful about that, because I see myself in these women, or I see myself in these men as they look at women. But I thought, I want to challenge myself, because I think making work on 2 men is so difficult, to not make it combative, and not make it harsh, and not make it aggressive, and find just the subtleties of that.
Tell me about the last time you danced someone else's choreography.
The last time I danced someone else's choreography was Simone Orlando's Luft, which was a version of Firebird that she created for my company in 2011.
To dance someone else's language, to dance someone else's vocabulary when you're so used to choreographing on others, how did that feel?
I mean, Simone was very hard on me and specific and clear, just like I am. And so it was difficult, and it was not always easy between us, and it was tough for me because I went into that already being in a choreographic brain. It wasn't like I went into that from school or from having been a dancer. I went back into not even back, I had never really been in that role before.
Right.
I'd never had someone create something like that for me.
You started choreographing on other people before they could create on you, really?
Yeah.
What is the current state of dance choreography?
It's a complex question, the current state of dance choreography. I wish I saw more work that moved and challenged me. But, I have a very particular aesthetic, and the type of work that I like is often reflective of that. And so I'm clear that some things are maybe just not to my taste. But I feel like, especially in big dance, big institutional dance, so many decisions are based on economics and what's safe, what's marketable, who's already known. There's not a lot of risk taking. A lot of these companies promote choreographers from within because it looks good for their schools and it looks good for their institution and their grant applications. And not to devalue what the work that's made or to say no one interesting comes from these places, but it's become such a cycle. And that's where someone like Wayne McGregor is so incredible, that the fact that he's the resident choreographer of the Royal Ballet is exactly the reason why I want to be around that environment, because it promotes risk-taking and it promotes innovation and advancement, and it preserves what ballet was and celebrates where it is going.
Do the dancers have the right skill and artistry to meet the demands of today's choreography?
Everyone's different. There are a lot of choreographers where if you do ballet class, you can walk in and do their work. There are a lot of choreographers who have a very particular movement language. For me, I just need the dancers to have the will and the desire and the drive to see themselves differently.
So I have the will, the desire, and the drive to learn some of your choreography now. Let's move to your piece.
Cool. as you get through to here, your shoulder is opening your standing leg, and then this is sliding.
There's connections that I've never considered. Cool. Shoulders and toes. I never knew there was a line between those.
And then this is a clear line.
Okay.
One down, one up. Yeah. Then from here, this falls into as the leg stretches.
And where do you release there? Is it rib cage
yeah.
or is it shoulder?
Shoulder. Yeah.
Okay.
Shoulder.
Comes forward.
And then it's like lock and load. And then that is what is giving action to the heel to come in this way. Connect your knees, open. Well, everything is highly logical.
Yeah.
Those like double body parts, it's like the only reason why you can do this is because that holds you into the place.
Yeah.
And that energy is contained, so you need to let it go to reactivate new energy and find that. Now, as you stretch the toes, lift the arm, change, other side, and really connect your head to your arm here. Down. My work isn't ballet, as we know it, in theory. But everything about the principles of coming across and over your standing leg and the stacking of the body in order to create the most efficiency and strength is how I approach everything physically.